All right, here with Cooper Zachary after Fisher's wins tonight over Zionsville, and what was the final score was something like was it
53 to like 41, something like that.
53-41. Let's say that's what it was. It was a close game, Cooper, for quite a while there. Then you guys able to pull away that third quarter run. You had 3 threes in that quarter. What kind of changed there for you guys to kind of get off to a good start that quarter?
Yeah, so we went into the halftime. Coach Weiniger said the whole week leading up to this, like when we play Zionsville, it's going to be a close game to the first 2 quarters. I mean, they've been going against teams, they've been keeping it close, and then teams have been pulling away. So he knew that like we're a third quarter team, and we're going to pull it away in the third quarter. We just had to do everything better than what we did in the first half. We were getting stops, we just couldn't hit shots. He said, shoot the 3 when you're open, but don't force it. We forced a couple, including myself. And we just tried to get into the paint, get paint touches, and then get the kick out threes. It worked.
And Zionsville, a team that, Mitchell's giving you guys some trouble in the last couple of games. You had 29 last game you guys played. Was there anything you guys did with him differently tonight or tried to do with him? Sometimes he's just a guy who gets hot and you can't really stop him.
Right. So we were going to do a three-way switch between Jason, Justin, and John Anthony, just have them 3-way switch. So, like, you can switch on to Snively and stuff. And then me and Baker, we would block the ball screen, meaning like we would hedge hard and really get it out of their hands. He got going, but we stayed together and we just had to make plays to win. We knew he was going to get his points. We just had to make others not really do anything.
And tonight he had 16 he ends up with. Drew Snively had 13, the 2 top seniors for Zionsville. Cooper, I was talking to Jason Gardner Jr., your backcourt sophomore teammate there. You guys have not lost a tournament game in your career up to this point, which is amazing. I know another tough game tomorrow against Noblesville, but just to be able to do what you guys have done these last couple of years, how fun has this been for the 2 of you to play together and keep winning like you guys have?
Man, it's really fun. We're playing this season during AAU. That's going to be a blast. We've won a lot of games growing up, and I feel like we're ready for this type of stage. We don't get scared in moments like these. He's got to prevail. Like we're built for this. We've gone through moments of times that have been rough, but we fought, and practice has always been hard on each other, like guarding each other, making each other better, and I feel like that's what helps us win.
This is a Noblesville team you guys handled really easily the first time, and I wouldn't expect it'll be that type of game. They're going to come out, I'm sure, ready, and I talked to Justin Curry about that. I mean, they're definitely going to try to play differently than they did the first time, obviously, but what do you expect out of that team? That's obviously a really talented team, a team you guys know really well.
Yeah, they're great coach. Their coach over there does a great job with all the players. Curry and Barron, obviously, they're 2 best players, but we just got to hone in on them and make everything tough, like on Fine, make him shoot a little bit. And then we just got to guard AB. He's a tough body down there. And TJ, we just got to heat him up,
This has been a sectional of great crowds. Both nights sold out. Do you ever kind of look around and just enjoy playing in this type of environment as a sophomore?
At Noblesville, I couldn't really tell because, like, the back was kind of, like, dark. So now it's all kind of all bright and you can really see it, and it's just crazy. All the students coming out, every school. It's been great. I love the environment. It's awesome. It's
been so fun to watch these games here, and a lot of teams, great teams by the wayside now. Westfield and Zionsville. Obviously, on the other side, HSE played a great game tonight, but you guys are able to survive and play another night. How do you get ready so quickly now for a really good Noblesville team?
It starts with a good night of rest. We have to go home, sleep on this win. We have to immediately prepare for Noblesville. We're coming in at 10 o'clock, do a little bit of walkthrough, go home. Then we're coming back at 3, just really lock in on their sets and stuff like that. Then we just get shots. We have to really prepare to knock down shots and take away their keys to the game.
Awesome. Well, again, Cooper Zachary tonight. Fishers beats Zionsville, moves on in Sectional 8 here at Carmel. Like I said, great crowd. Should be another great crowd tomorrow. I expect it to be sold out again. Should be a fantastic game. But, Cooper, thanks for coming on, and your bus is probably about to leave, but appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate you having me.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Okay. All right, here with Rich Torres with Jeff Hester was just leaving here and saying goodbye to him, but Rich Torres joining us from Muncie Central, where 2 games tonight, Rich. We're going to touch mostly on the Anderson-Mount Vernon game. That was the first game of the night. It seemed like there was a ton of good 6 o'clock games tonight, and you certainly had one. I don't know how this game went. I saw that Anderson was ahead at halftime by 4, and then all of a sudden I saw your tweet that Mount Vernon was putting them away. So tell us a little bit, Rich, about how it went tonight. And that was one of the best games of the night. Top two teams that are probably legit top 10 teams in the state in 4A.
Yeah, well, greetings from Ball State University. I'm in my car, mobile reporter here. So luckily, hopefully they won't call security on me. But but yeah, you're right. That 6:00 game, holy cow! Like we talked about last week, just how the top 10 teams in 4A, could easily battle each other, and really you can go beyond that, right? And tonight was one of those situations. Anderson ranked 5th. They came out in that first half and they had control. They went down, came back. There were a lot of runs. There were 7 ties in this game before Mount Vernon pulled away at the end. And it was it was one of those situations where you're kind of wondering, okay, who's going to hold that double-digit lead? Because Mount Vernon was up early. Anderson had a 10-point lead at one point. It was just nothing was holding. There was an answer back and forth. And the turning point was at the end of the third quarter. And senior Riker Bear pulled in a rebound in the final seconds of that quarter and saw his teammate Elijah Parra down the court, pretty much full court, and fired a pass all the way down that court. Elijah hauls it in, gets an and one, which breaks a 43 all tie and sets up the 7th tie, the start of the fourth quarter. But from there, Mount Vernon goes on to score big time with 31 points in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
A lot of it from the free throw line, but they kind of took off from there. They were able to put together a nice 10-2 run after that final tie at 45 all. And they kind of took care of business. And it wasn't just Luke Ertl. I know a lot of people like to say, hey, Luke Ertl's the guy on that team, and he is, no question. There's a reason he's being recruited the way he is and why he's a Purdue recruit as far as I know. But it was a team effort tonight. And Joe Bradburn kind of mentioned that. He really emphasized that. He talked about Riker coming in, and he played a phenomenal defense against Damian King of Anderson, who we all know is a really solid player. And Damian was held to 3 points in the second half.
Wow.
Where he finished off with 18, so 15 came in the first half. Mm-hmm. So that really kind of slowed it down. And honestly, Anderson tried to kind of play possession ball in the third quarter and slow it down. And Mount Vernon just responded with that, came out and put together a nice a run there, 11-4 run. I had to look down at my notes. 11-4 run to tie it at 43 all. So it seemed, it was a little curious as to why Anderson was trying to do that. I can understand they were trying to protect the 7-point lead that they had, kind of slow the game down a little bit, but that's not really where their strength is, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to be critical, but it just seemed like in that moment, it kind of opened the door for Mount Vernon, and that big play, from Riker to Elijah, the team talked about it, and they said that really kind of gave them that momentum in that fourth quarter, and you could see it. They kind of took off from there.
What was the crowd like for that first game, Rich?
Crowd was pretty decent, actually. 6:00 game in Muncie. It's a nice little trek.
Yeah.
Making it all the way there, and it was a pretty solid crowd. And by the second game, the field house was pretty packed. I won't say sellout, but it was solid, energetic crowd. Anderson was well represented, so was Mount Vernon, and and what a game. It was hard to kind of put into words. When it was over, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I just see? Because like you said, we're tied after the first quarter, 34-30 at halftime. And then for it to be 76-60 at the end, it just seemed like I feel like Anderson kind of lost that momentum, kind of faded out there. A lot of those points were at the end up from the free throw line because they were fouling, trying to get back in it. So I think you should look at that and maybe take about 10 points off, more or less.
No,
and that's how close it was.
It is misleading, I think, a little bit because that was a close game all the way. Basically for 3 quarters, it's dead even, but. Rich, I'll ask you quickly. The Muncie Central Greenfield-Central game, not as close, but it was for a bit. How did Greenfield-Central kind of get it going there and pull away from the Bearcats?
Well, they just kind of remembered who they were. They were missing shots. There were some early fouls, a lot of turnovers, uncharacteristic. And Coach Meredith even mentioned that. He was just like, well, you could see that it just wasn't who we were. but then we kind of pulled it together. They were down by 8 points at one point. Going into the second quarter, it was 15-7,
Wow.
and then Greenfield does what it does, and it went on a 20-0 run. And from there, it pretty much kind of turned the tide. I hand it to Muncie Central. So their home court. They came out. They were fired up. They were looking to upset really everybody. Any predictions out there, and they did. They gutted it out early. Had that momentum. Had the crowd behind them. But Braylon Mullins is Braylon Mullins. 25 points. And he kind of, and also Mikey Johnson kind of came out and he had a really good game too. So it was just Greenfield just kind of figured out their shooting again, got back into the moment, calmed themselves. And part of it, and they mentioned it a little bit after the game, they're thinking about that historical aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to try to get that sectional title that they missed out on last week. Oh, we got lights going off. My fault. That they missed out in last year against New Pal when Braylon was battling an injury. Well, I talked to him. He said he's feeling great. He's healthy, and they're looking to kind of close that door on that drought that's been going since 1998. And this would be their first 4A sectional title too, because the last one they won was in 3A. So it's history across the board. And Braylon mentioned that he's like he has the individual accolades. He wants his team accolade, and that's that sectional title. But Mount Vernon, they only lost by 5 points when they faced in the regular season, so it could be a dogfight.
I was going to ask you too. Just this game tomorrow, and I covered the first time the two teams played each other. It was a really good game. Mount Vernon was actually without Tyler Davis, and Max Weiss missed almost that whole game because he went out with concussion symptoms basically after about 3 minutes of that game. So they were without two pretty key guys, and it still was a very close, well contested game. That game was back in January, probably about 2 months ago, roughly, and it was a great game. I think tomorrow will be a fantastic atmosphere. What are your just watching the two teams play, and I know you're familiar with them. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that game tomorrow night? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a dogfight. I use that word because I truly believe it's going to be a tug of war. I think if Mount Vernon is able to play defense like they did today, against Anderson, against Greenfield, they're going to challenge a lot of shots. It could very well be a 1 or 2 possession win one way or the other, much like the regular season. I like you said, getting those guys back from Mount Vernon will be pretty big because they played big roles today. Mm-hmm. Mount Vernon had an inside and an outside game going. They weren't just relying on one or the other. Again, Riker's defense on King was pretty impressive. I'm not saying he's going to slow anyone down necessarily. I'm not going to make any promises, but I think he's going to disrupt things. And Luke Ertl, he didn't really have to score too much there, late in the game because it kind of got away. Everybody was kind of flowing, but he was unbelievable from the foul line. So if he draws any contact, he's going to knock those down. I think there's a lot of emotion that's going to be in tomorrow's game.
Yes.
I mean, you look at two county rivals, obviously two extremely good players on either side, arguably Mr. Basketball with Greenfield, with Braylon Mullins, and just their desire to get this thing done. And Mount Vernon kind of being next to New Pal, being kind of that team in that county to keep winning sectional titles. It's gonna, yeah. I'm if you want to put me on the spot as to say who's gonna win, I mean, on paper, I guess you got to say Greenfield-Central, right? But I wouldn't be shocked if Mount Vernon pulls out an upset here.
I had a sneaking suspicion this game was going to happen, and I'm glad it did. Nothing against Anderson would have been a great story too, but just from a standpoint of like the team Greenfield's got to beat is Mount Vernon, so it's kind of like it. And if it wouldn't have been them, maybe it would have been New Pal if they wouldn't have changed the classes around. But yeah, it seems fitting they have to get through Mount Vernon to win their first sectional title in forever. And it'll be a fantastic game, I have no doubt. Fantastic atmosphere. Maybe one of the best in the state tomorrow night. So that will be a lot of fun. But Rich, appreciate you. I think your light came back on slightly there. So
yeah. I was able to turn my car back on. So multitasking. I'm multitasking like crazy.
From the darkness of Muncie, Rich Torres joining us. But appreciate you popping on here, Rich.
No problem. Thanks, Kyle.
All right, man. We'll see you. Well, next we're going to bring on Bryan Ault, and Bryan was at one of the games of the night tonight at Shortridge High School, where Cathedral played Crispus Attucks, and I was trying to watch this game, Bryan, on streaming. It's hard to. I'm taking video and kind of looking down and trying to watch this game because I was so intrigued by what happened here. But I'm curious, just from your perspective. Attucks was down. I don't know how you can fill me in on the details. They were down and then came back and won this game. I mean, it must have been a pretty dramatic scene there at Shortridge.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, the game started off, kind of like really started off the way it ended. Cathedral was able to kind of pull out to an early 6-0 lead, and and kind of just Crispus Attucks kind of kept coming back. They finally narrowed it. They went into halftime, tied up, and then, kind of like in the beginning of the game in the third quarter, Cathedral really. They came out, firing. They it was kind of an uneven in terms of the lead they were able to grow. Like they got up to an 11-point deficit there to start the fourth quarter, and throughout the game though, that third quarter, a lot of it though was just the fact that Attucks couldn't really score. You know what I mean? They just kept missing baskets, but Cathedral's defense also really stepped up, and then at the start of the fourth quarter, their defense just collapsed, and it started off with some a quick three there, but the biggest thing that I thought was just really with Desmond Briscoe, who was outstanding. I heard he was committed to Iowa. He's going to be a really great fit there for sure. I mean, his performance was just really, really good, especially in the fourth quarter. He really came on when they needed him a lot, and so it was a great atmosphere too. I'd never been in that gym before. It was kind of an old-fashioned atmosphere. You know what I mean? Not as much, like Hamilton County gyms. Like squeaky clean and everything. It just kind of had a more like an old-fashioned style feel to it. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, that's a great atmosphere. Shortridge it is a very cool gym. I covered sectional over there maybe 2 years ago or so. It's a neat gym, a neat place to watch a game, and I'm sure with the city rivalry between these two teams, you're going to have a great crowd and a lot on the line in this game because as we know, I mean it's the winner of that game has a real chance to make a run in 3A now. So. And then the second game, Bryan, I'm Shortridge. I know won that game, right? So they'll be playing Attucks in tomorrow night's championship game.
Yeah. I didn't watch the second game. I didn't stay around for that one, but yeah, it was. I definitely like just what Attucks really brings to the table. Just from an overall perspective. I felt like they have some good shooters. I mean, Briscoe obviously dominates. He's head and shoulders above everybody else on the floor. He's got really long arms. He has kind of like the traits you would look for in a college football tight end, just in terms of his arm length and everything. But very very athletic team. They can also score though. He was the main show for sure. But they also have a lot of scorers that can shoot some threes and get open. And really use him well to create opportunities. So I think tomorrow's final will be a really good one for sure.
Desmond Briscoe ends up with 20 points, 11 rebounds, 7 block shots. Caden English had 15 points, 2 assists, 2 steals, and Shea Brownlow 8 points, 4 steals, 2 rebounds. So those were some of the leaders for Attucks tonight. And again, this was a rematch of the city championship that Cathedral actually won for the first time in 3 years. Attucks had beat them the previous 2 years. But unable to do it again this time. Bryan, did you talk to the coaches after the game? What was kind of your takeaway from your post game chats?
Yeah. I did not get to talk with Cathedral's coach. He was taking a long time to get out of the locker room, I would imagine, just because he was really frustrated. I do know that whenever Cathedral went in the third quarter leading by 11 points, and then when Attucks was able to score those first 5 points in the fourth quarter, one was a wide open three. He was very upset with his team. You know what I mean? And just very upset. And so I kind of felt like he was going to be a while to get out of that locker room, but I was able to catch up with Attucks. He was just really excited. I asked him what was your message to your team? Down in the third quarter by double-digit deficit, and he said we just don't give up. He said we just said keep playing, keep pushing, keep fighting, and they started making shots, and everything started to go their way. So their whole team and staff was really, really excited.
Well, awesome. Well, Bryan, thanks for coming on here with me, and appreciate you being out there tonight at Short Ridge. And Cathedral Falls, Cathedral's ranked number 1 in the state, had risen up to number 1 here recently in the poll, and Attucks knocks them off. So we knew this would be I figured it'd be a 50-50 game. It definitely was that. I think you play this game 10 times, they probably each win 5 of them. It's just that type of a rivalry. But now we'll see what Attucks can do moving forward. 3A is really tough. There are a lot of good teams. This wasn't the state championship game necessarily. There are a lot of other good teams out there, but certainly Attucks stakes a claim to being one of the front runners for sure. But Bryan, I appreciate you coming on here with me.
Yeah, man, anytime. And it was a great opportunity to go cover the game, and I had a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
You too.
Hey there again, everybody. Late night here at Carmel High School. Another packed house, another sellout crowd tonight. And I would think another one probably tomorrow. Jim Inskeep, as he was leaving, said I think the tickets went on sale about 6 o'clock tonight for the Saturday night game. And they were down to about 1,800 left on sale. So it's going to be another great crowd, I would think. Even if it's not a sellout, which I think it will, it's going to be really good. Excuse me there, but Noblesville in my 2 games tonight, Noblesville wins the opener 56-53, and really felt like Noblesville had things under control. They had a great third quarter, got out to a 20-5 advantage in the third. Just came out kind of renewed sense of urgency, defensive willingness, whatever word you want to put with it, but really kind of got after HSC, took them out of everything. HSC couldn't score really at all. And Noblesville goes into the fourth quarter leading. There was a 1-point game at halftime. HSC led kind of back and forth. And then at the start of the fourth quarter, it's 38-24. If I'm reading that right. No, it was it was 38-24. It was a 14-point lead going into the fourth. It was 14 points with about 6 minutes left. And then HSE started going crazy. Maverick Young ends up with 14 points in the fourth, had 24 for the game. He was lighting it up. He ends up with about 4 point. I have to read my story again as I'm talking here. So about 4.7 seconds left, 4.8 seconds left. He hits a 3-pointer to pull HSE within 3. And so at that point, HSE, John Ashworth had to use his last timeout. They end up fouling Justin Curry with 3.4 seconds left. And Curry, a good free throw shooter, had 17 points tonight. And obviously he's a guy you want with the ball in his hands, him and Baron Walker for sure. Curry ends up missing both free throws. HSE goes down the court without any timeouts and only 3.4 seconds left. And they get the ball. Oswald got the rebound. He pushes it ahead to it was Lucas Weimer at about the volleyball line. Weimer had a good shot at it. I mean, it really looked like it was going to go in. He shot. It took a good look. I mean, he barely got it off in time, but he took a good shot. It wasn't rushed. It didn't look rushed anyway. Baron Walker kind of got a hand up. A good defensive play by him to just kind of get in his face. And Weimer almost hit it, though. It kind of rattled out, and it ends up being a 56-53 Noblesville victory. So quite a finish there, quite a run there by HSC, which speaking of them, they're going to have almost everybody back except Totten, who's, Totten's, Braden Totten's a great player. He may not score a ton of points every game, but he's always double figures right around there, gets a lot of rebounds. assists, steals. He's just kind of a do-everything guy that you got to love as a player, as a coach. And they'll miss him next year. But, man, they bring so many guys back. Weimer included in that mix. Varshawn Clark came in as a freshman tonight, had 10 points off the bench. I thought he played great. Obviously, Young was lighting it up. He ends up 5 for 8 from 3, 24 points. Like I said, 14 of those in the fourth quarter. He just kind of put the team on his back there for a spell and almost brought HSC back in that game. So really good game in that first game. Noblesville hangs on, and they will play Fishers. Fishers pulled away. It was more of a workman-like game, I would say, from Fishers. They were leading by 4 at halftime and then kind of got rolling towards the end of the third. It was about it was probably just a few minutes left there in the third, and Cooper Zachary got hot. He had 3 threes in the third, hit one right at the end of the quarter, put the Tigers up by 11. We talked to him a little bit earlier, and I thought he was the big difference tonight. He doesn't always score a ton. He shoots it really well at a high percentage, about 50% on the season. But a lot of the things he does are assists, are kind of running the team, and then shooting when he's open. And he did that well tonight. I thought he was a big spark plug for them. John Anthony Hall ends up with another good game, several dunks, follow dunks, and ends up with 15 points as well. So a couple of good nights from him. This from a scoring perspective, doesn't always score a ton of points either, but he's kind of raised his game up. And Jason Gardner Jr. feels like anytime he takes off towards the basket, it's like Allen Iverson going to he's just so fast getting to the basket. So he ends up with, I believe, 13 points on the night. So, you had, again, didn't have anybody just go crazy for Fishers, but had a real good night from a lot of different guys. And kudos to this crowd again, man. It's unreal that the amount of people we've had here the first 2 nights of the sectional at Carmel. I knew it would be great, but man, it just really lives up to it. Carmel's done some cool things with their lights here that kind of adds to the specter of it all, and it's just been a fun couple nights of basketball. I know tomorrow is going to be great as well, and I would expect this. I talked to both teams about this a little bit, but and Cooper Zachary, you heard him earlier, but I don't think it's going to be anything like the first game. Fishers just kind of ran Noblesville out of the building back in December. It was 74-40. I covered that game. It just was really surprising. I knew Noblesville had obviously lost some key players from last year, but didn't expect that kind of game. Fisher just shot the ball incredibly well. They looked like an absolute juggernaut in that game. So things have changed some. Fishers came out of the gate. You kind of knew who they were. They've been like that all year. And, Noblesville has had to have some guys play into some bigger roles as the season's gone along. So, again, I think Fishers will win, but I think Noblesville's going to be ready for that game tomorrow. And I think it's going to be a really good one here at Carmel. So, that's kind of the setup from here. Elsewhere around tonight, and we talked to Bryan and Rich, obviously, about the sectional games that they had. I'm kind of flying through as we go through the night, seeing some stuff and now seeing some stuff for the first time tonight, and was kind of following some games along. And I was following early on. I know Ben Davis and Mark Zachary. Mark Zachary played tonight for the first time this season for Ben Davis. Ben Davis just did hold on. They had a lead most of the game. This is Sectional 11 at Avon. Had a lead most of the game, and they hold on to beat Pike in a low-scoring game. It was really low-scoring, even in the first quarter. It felt like it was just going to be one of those type of nights. But Ben Davis wins 43-41 over Pike. That game, again, went right down to the wire. I think Pike had a chance there at the end of the game to try to win it, and just couldn't quite get a putback at the buzzer, and it ends up being 43-41. Ben Davis, the winner. So Ben Davis 17-8, and they will play Brownsburg, which is maybe one of the surprising teams in the tournament so far. They beat Avon, ranked number 4, on Tuesday night, 44-40, and then tonight they fall behind early, kind of an opposite of the Avon game, and they came back and beat Plainfield 50-47, another really close game. So Brownsburg will now play Ben Davis in the sectional championship game. So probably not the matchup maybe that people thought going into the sectional. Obviously, Avon was probably the slight favorite there, and definitely Ben Davis, not a huge surprise that they're in it again. They have been really a team that's won a lot here in these last few years. So maybe not a surprise from that standpoint that they made it again. Ben Davis, the state finalist last year, state finalist 2 years ago, and won it 2 years ago, and now have Mark Zachary back. This is a little different team. A lot of guys who didn't play a ton last year are having key roles on this team this year. But Ben Davis, Brownsburg, again, that'll be sectional 11 at Avon tomorrow. And you can find all this again at indystar.com. We have all the, kind of the highlights packages, the game matchups for the sectional championship games. Sectional 10 at Lawrence Central. Lawrence North wins 58-48 over Warren Central. Figured that would be a good game, and it was. North Central beats Tech 72-38. So you'll have Lawrence North and North Central, the two old rivals, doing battle there at Lawrence Central in sectional 10. That'll be a 7 o'clock game. Again, you might want to check a lot of these. They're not all 7:30 games. A lot of these are 7 o'clock games. So you'll need to double check and make sure you get there. I know that's happened in the past where, that one at LC, that sectional 10 has always been 7 o'clock, or at least has been for a long time. Also, the Ben Davis Brownsburg game is 7. Sectional 12 at Decatur Central. Franklin Central beat Southport 69-62, and then Mooresville beat Center Grove 60-47. So your championship game tomorrow, again, maybe a little bit of surprise. Franklin Central 8-14, but 7 of those losses are to HCC schools, and then Mooresville 13-11. So a little bit different matchup there at Decatur Central tomorrow. I think that's probably a toss-up type game. I would probably favor Franklin Central slightly. Sectional 13 at Bloomington South, Terre Haute North rolls and Bloomington South rolls. So you got Terre Haute North and Bloomington South in the championship there. That should be a really good game. And then tonight at Columbus East, Whiteland beats East Central 59-33, and Columbus East again 75-51 over Franklin. That Columbus East team really rolling right now in that sectional. They beat Columbus North handily on Tuesday night as well. Sectional 24, we're dipping down to 3A at Newcastle. Delta beat Yorktown 49-39. Newcastle beat Connorsville 61-41. So those two teams, Delta and Newcastle, will do battle in the championship tomorrow night at Frankfort. This will be a good one too. Danville 82-70. High scoring game over Danville for Tri-West. Tri-West has been a hot team here lately. And then the other one, Guerin Catholic 59-45 over Brebeuf. So you got Tri-West versus Guerin. Tri-West 18-6. Guerin Catholic 21-4. Again, Guerin, I would probably favor them a little bit, but Tri-West has been hot lately, including a win over Brebeuf here in the last couple weeks. One of the big games, and Bryan talked about it, Attucks beat Cathedral 59-54. And again, Attucks avenges that loss from the city championship. Cathedral had risen up to number 1 in the state rankings here recently, but rankings don't mean anything at this point necessarily. But Attucks gets the win tonight. Big game from Desmond Briscoe, and Attucks moves on to play Shortridge, which handled Heron 73-27 in that second semifinal. So it looked like a great crowd over there, Attucks and Cathedral. So Attucks moves on. At Cascade, one of the I was surprised to see this score too. Speedway 74-54 beats Cascade. Speedway 3-19 will now play Northview, which is 23-2. Northview handled Washington easily, 81-43 tonight. So Northview and Speedway will do battle tomorrow night at Cascade. Shelbyville. Score a little bit closer, I think, than people would realize or think about going in. New Powell beats Beech Grove 55-45, and then Roncalli, a 2-point win over Greenwood, 44-42. So that should also be a really good game. New Powell, Roncalli tomorrow at Shelbyville. That was a really close game earlier this season as well. New Powell winning a tight one over Roncalli. So, again, a good one in 3A. Western Boone may be one of the surprise teams, too. They got a chance to win the sectional 37 at North Montgomery. Western Boone rolls past Rensselaer Central 70-35, and then Seeger beat Benton Central 70-58. So you have Seeger 13-11, Western Boone 10-14. Sectional 39 at Frankton. Tipton beat Sheridan, one of the big games of the night, 56-51. And Frankton beat LaPel, a bit of an upset there as well, 61-49. So you have Tipton and Frankton will go at it in sectional 39 at Frankton's home court. Also tonight, Ritter holds on, beats Riverside 73-66. And University beats Monrovia 62-49. That is at Park Tudor. University and Ritter will be a great game as well in that sectional championship. Another good one tonight. We knew this would be 2 one-point games. They don't get any better than that at Crystal House tonight, where Triton Central wins 48-47 in overtime over the host Crystal House Manual. And Cecina beat Kip Indy Legacy 46-45. So you have Cecina, Triton Central will be the matchup there tomorrow. In sectional 54 at Clinton Central, Frontier beat Traders Point Christian 72-33. Last I hadn't seen a Rossville Clinton Prairie score at this point in our roundup here, but that would have been one of the better games of the night as well, or one of many. There were so many good games on tap tonight as well. Around the state as well as in our area here. Metropolitan beat Greenwood Christian in sectional 58 at Lutheran, 61-39. And Lutheran beats Providence Cristo Rey 54-48. Kudos Providence Cristo Rey had quite a turnaround this season. Wrote about them last year. They were really, really kind of young and struggling and just learning how to play, but they have definitely got it going now. Sectional 57 at Purdue, Poly Broad Ripple. Liberty Christian beat Tinley 70-49, and Anderson Prep beat International 73-67. And that's, I guess, sectional 59 Edinburgh as well. Decatur Central 60, Waldron 52, and then Edinburgh beat South Decatur 53-47. That was a wide open one going in. North Decatur 13-13 against Edinburgh 13-12. So two teams right around 500, but that's kind of how that sectional was. Could have been a lot of teams in that bracket advancing. Looking around also, so you'll have some really good games tomorrow night all around the state, including, just highlight a few of these. Northridge and Warsaw, that will be a great battle at Elkhart. Northridge 21-3, Warsaw 24-4. Both those teams have a chance to do some damage beyond the sectional even. Both those really good teams, although Luke Bricker is out for Warsaw, but even still, Warsaw, a very tough team. Homestead and Fort Wayne should be a good one as well at Fort Wayne in Class 4A. Kokomo did win tonight. They beat McCutcheon 70-62, so they'll play Harrison. Harrison beat Lafayette Jeff 55-51. So Harrison Kokomo should be a really good game also. I touched on all of our local sectionals in 4A, our championship games. Looking down, you'll have Jeff's New Albany at Seymour. That will be fantastic. Jeff and New Albany both pretty handily won tonight. So those old rivals will do battle tomorrow. Then at Evansville, Harrison and Wrights play each other in the sectional 16 championship game. Looking down, you'll have Culver Academy, South Bend St. Joe in Class 3A. Those two teams played to a 1-point game earlier this season. St. Joe beat Mishawaka Marion by 22 tonight. That's maybe a little bit bigger of a spread than we thought going in. Tippecanoe Valley, Columbia City at the Northwood sectional in 3A. That sets up as another good matchup. Let's see here. Looking down and trying to get caught up on some of this stuff. It's taking videos and writing and interviewing people. I wasn't able to see quite as much. Washington beat Southridge 51-47 at Southridge, so slight upset there. And Princeton held off Gibson Southern. Those games are always just so close down there. So Washington, Princeton will play in sectional 31 championship at Southridge tomorrow night. That should be a good game as well. Let's see. I don't see a whole lot of huge upsets or anything like that. Probably can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, so that'll do it for tonight. Appreciate everybody joining me here, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night.